Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Are we really having this conversation? Are we really discussing the fact that baseball is back? I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I was pissed off. I was disgusted. It was horrendous, pathetic, awful. Those negotiations that went down, it was so disturbing and disgraceful between the owners and the union going back and forth. Tell me when and where those players would say. And then the owners responded with, okay, here's 60 games. This is what it's going to be like. And they go, nah, you know what? I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I'm a fan of that. Let's go with 70 games. Well, hold on a second. You just said tell us when and where. And now you want to nitpick and throw in 10 extra games, which would be the difference, I believe, was about $245 million spread out over all of the teams in the MLB. You're now fighting over peanuts. It was a disgrace what went down. But here's the thing. Now that it is past us and baseball is back on track, and starting July 1st there will be spring training 2.0. Now that that is official and confirmed, I don't care. I'm still excited. I'm still stoked. 60 games, that's fine. At this point, give me baseball. Give me live sports. I need it on my television. I'm super stoked about seeing Bryce Harper, seeing Aaron Nola, seeing Joe Girardi. There's so much to get into when it comes to this current Phillies team. If they are going to be able to make a run in a sprint. No. This is no marathon. Can they do it in a sprint? I am so intrigued, and I can't wait to talk legit baseball at this point moving forward. But I will say, let's not forget that there's going to be an issue real soon. The reason why the players sat back and allowed it to go the length of time was because of principle. They wanted to say, we did not give in to the owners. We forced Manfred to step in and make a deal. They did that. They stood with their foot there, and they tried to make a statement, because there will be future negotiations that come along in the very near future, and this will happen all over again. It will be even uglier. It's going to be a big-time issue. But you know what? At this point, I'll get to that when it happens. I will be so fired up and devastated when we go through that once again. But as for right now, it is what it is. I want to see baseball. I need sports in my life. The only thing the players got out of this was the fact that they can still file for grievance later on. And I just don't know if that's enough. It's clear to me that the owners won this battle. They got the 60-game season in there. They did have to pay the prorated salaries, but the playoff pool money's different. It's all on the owners at this point when it comes to who came out on top and who won. To me, it's the owners won this specific scenario, and I hated both sides, to be honest with you. I hated both sides of this. Well, I guess you can argue all three, because Manfred is stuck in the middle, although he gets paid by the owners, and a lot of his decisions are based off what the owners do and what they say, so it's hard to really get pissed off at him. It's just a flawed position to be in as commissioner in baseball, but I think he did do a poor job. I thought the owners did a poor job. The players, for some reason, people want to give them credit and say they deserve to be paid. Hold out as long as possible. Screw that mindset. The players are just as much as faulty as anybody else, and it is what it is. But anyway, moral of the story is we are getting baseball, and that is exciting. Before we dive into it, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, Orbit Energy and Power is home to solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. We are talking about $0 electric bills. Let me repeat that, $0 electric bills. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly. They use high quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done. Check out their information. Their link to the website is in the description, and the phone number is as well. So check them out. Absolutely. So the way that this is going to work is Spring Training 2.0 starts July 1st, which is next Wednesday, and then the season is going to start July 23rd, 24th. Wow. Wow, I can't believe I am truthfully sitting here talking about baseball being back. Here's the thing. When it comes to coronavirus, you got a bunch of Phillies people who tested positive. Charlie Blackmon tested positive. People in the Toronto Blue Jays organization tested positive. That's going to happen. It shouldn't be concerning when you hear about certain players at this point testing positive. It is what it is. I mean, it shouldn't be concerning. What I mean by that is when it comes to the sport coming back or not. At this point, you know that players are going to test positive. From now on, it's about what do you do from then? What do you do from that moment? You quarantine them. You put them away from the team, and a new person has to step in. That's what you do. You just got to hope and pray that it doesn't get to so many people where one team is using all AA players because their whole entire team, their starting Major League Baseball team, is being quarantined. The problem is nobody knows how this coronavirus stuff is even happening because, for example, when you look at the NHL, Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs tested positive. Frederik Andersen was all close to him, with him, working out with him, skating with him, being so involved with Austin Matthews, he didn't test positive. So is it as contagious as we thought? There's so many stories of 6 people being together, 6 people have it. 6 people being together, 1 person has it. There's so many question marks, but I still think it's the right move to get sports back, knowing that people will test positive. You can't wait for no positive tests. If that's the case, you will never see sports again, and that's not the proper way to do this. So, a 60-game season, you will play your division for 40 of those games. So you will have 10 games against the Marlins, Mets, Nationals, and Braves. Then the other 20 games, the remaining 20 games, will be against the AL East, specifically for the Phillies, but the way it's breaking down is the NL West will play the AL West and the NL Central will play the AL Central, and it'll work like that. So the Phillies will see the Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles, and Rays, and they will play out of their own ballpark, except for, I think some of these teams, specifically the one that comes to mind is the Toronto Blue Jays, because they were going to play in Florida, but then the outbreak happened in Florida. Now I think they're going to Buffalo or something of that nature, so you might see some teams have to go in other places, but how does that affect the Phillies? It does not right now, as they are going to be playing fine in Citizens Bank Park, at least to our knowledge right now. I do question a few things, though. You know, are teams committed? Are teams committed to go out there and try and win? Or is this a spot where they think, all right, I don't know what the hell this season is. Let's just go out there, make some money. Some of these players are going out there to make some money and compete just to make sure they get a paycheck. All right, I mean, I understand trying to make money, but I just wonder what the commitment level is going to be for some of these players out there. Are they going to be insanely invested, ready to compete? You would think, or you can at least argue, that because it's a sprint of 60 games, this gives weaker teams an opportunity. The Pittsburgh Pirates last year, they actually would have had an opportunity in a 60-game stretch to start the season. The Washington Nationals would not have been in the postseason. So it's just interesting how that works. You could be a team that isn't that talented, but because you're not playing 162 games, you don't have enough time to fall off if you are a team that is a dumpster fire later on in the year, the Philadelphia Phillies. So you might have a chance. You might have an opportunity to make some noise, and if you're lucky enough, you can play in the playoffs and not have to worry about falling off like you would have in August, in September. I go to the playoffs conversation, and it's crazy what the players' union really got out of this. Because on the table was 60 games, extended playoffs, playoff money, and what did they get? They got grievance? They got the fact that they can maybe attack the owners with grievance? They kept their feet down? Like, what? The only logical thing, and it's not even logical, but the only way that I can think they approach this is they weren't even worried about this. They were going to wait till the end to make a statement and prove that they weren't going to get sucked in or agree to anything with the owners, just because they know that it's going to be an issue a few years from now when they need to go through this process all over again and they're trying to prove a point. It's nasty. What it is it's nasty. These are two separate occasions. Realize this, what's happening now, is a COVID-19 issue. When you need to talk baseball again in a couple of years, totally different conversation, and what happened in 2020 does not relate to that at all. So it's just disgraceful. It really is. Another question that I think about, though, going back to the question. So question 1, are teams going to be super committed? Question number 2, am I excited? You're damn right I am excited. As I stated, I went through hell, I went through pain, I went through frustration every single day. Every day on 97.3 ESPN to start the Sports Bash from 2 to 6 with Mike Gill, we opened the show up just disgusted, annoyed. We had Tim Kirchin on. We had on Frank Close of 97.3 ESPN, Phillies Insider. We had on so many people. Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal. We brought in so many baseball guests asking the same damn question for the last, 6 weeks. What is going on with this sport? And the moment I think about Bryce Harper hitting a dinger, here I am. I'm super stoked. I'm amped. I can't wait to see them play. I don't know what to expect, but there's so many intriguing storylines when it comes to this Philadelphia Phillies team. Where do we begin? How about the fact that there's a new manager in town, Joe Girardi? Now, the DH will be in the National League. That changes a lot. He has experience with the Yankees, of course, in the AL with the DH. So he has been so successful without the National League DH, or I'm sorry, the National League DH, the National League style of play without the DH. That's a hot debate when it comes to purists of the game. Should there be one? Should there not be one? Well, if you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics between the National League and the American League, it's not as if runs per game is a big time difference or how long the games are, the duration of the games. It's all the same, right? It's a long baseball game and the runs are essentially the same. So it's not as if the pitcher or somebody else batting is a significant difference when it comes to the overall outcome of a baseball game. But where it does matter is individual. If you have a hitter who can actually hit 250 and he's your DH, well, okay. He's better than the pitcher who hits under 100. No doubt about it. You have your Madison Bumgarners. You have your Jake Arrietas. You have your Otanis. You have guys that can swing the sticks better than others, but ultimately, player versus player, yes, you will see a difference from batting averages of DHs compared to the pitcher. But it doesn't result in anything. I like the National League style where if there's a pitcher who's coming up in the batting order, he's at 75 pitches, he's 6 innings in, do you keep him in? Do you take him out? If there's a guy on second, you need a run. Do you bunt the guy over? Do you do this? You have so many question marks that goes through the manager's head. You are taking that part away from baseball. But I understand it. I know it's going in that direction. I'm also not against it. I prefer the National League not having a DH because that even makes the World Series more interesting because you have two teams going up against each other and then the manager of the AL team, when they go into the National League's building or the ballpark, they now have to change their style. So it's definitely a more entertaining game in my opinion because you got to think differently. You got to approach the entire game of baseball differently. But I'm also not against it either. The thing is, there's no real DH anymore. It's not even a position. There used to be the big poppies of the world where teams had DHs who are going to crush dingers all the time. Now it's almost like, hey, we're giving you a day off in the field, and then you're just going to hit. So they're going to rotate players through. Oh, JT, you're not going to catch today, but we want your bat in the lineup. You're going to play. Hey, Scott Kingery, you played left field, second base, shortstop, third base this week. We're going to give you a day off in the field, but hey, you'll bat. Reese, we're giving you a day off at first base. You'll bat. At this point, it's not even a legit position anymore. It's a spot in the lineup to give guys a day off in the field where there's still going to be a factor for your team in the lineup. But I'm not against it. I just prefer the National League. I know that there's people banging on the desk saying, I'm disgusted, I'm pissed off. I don't go to that extreme. Once again, I prefer the National League. I like the thinking man's game of baseball. But with analytics these days, you don't have the same style anymore. Back in the day, you would go off gut. But now it's all number based. So if Gabe Kapler, let's use him for example, he walks to the mound, the only reason why he's making that decision on keeping a guy in or let's say Aaron Nola's up to bat and he's pitching well, but they need a run, and the only person they could throw in to bat is Brad Miller. Well, they will just use numbers to tell him what decision to make. He's not going out there and making the tough decision with his mind and being a manager. That's not a knock on Gabe Kapler, even though I don't like him at all. What it is it's reality of baseball. This is the sport now. So you don't even really have that anymore where the manager has to make a tough decision. It's all based on numbers, and they are told what to do in each position before it even happens anyway. So with that being said, you kind of lost that part of baseball to begin with. So, I mean, I get it. I do get it, and I think it's going to go down that road. And another crazy thing they're implementing is having a guy start on second base when it comes to extra innings. And I don't mind that. I think because you're trying to fit in 60 games in a small window, you need to make sure that these guys aren't playing 18, 19, 20 inning games. If it can speed up the game, okay, then so be it. But this is where the Phillies might be in a good position. Roman Quinn, the dude's a beast. The guy's fast as hell. Can he stay healthy? Great question. But if you have him to start on second base to start an extra inning game, I mean, boom, you're talking plenty of speed out there. That can totally be an X factor. That should be very fun to watch. But I mentioned the 60 games in a short window. What if we're coming down the stretch of the regular season and it pours in a specific city? Let's use Philadelphia as an example. Say it pours in Philadelphia and New York for 4 days straight and they can't get in any baseball games. And the season is going to end very soon. And they need to end by a specific date, of course. But in other spots of the country, California, maybe Texas, they're playing games and there's no rain. So one team has more games than another team or whatever the case may be. I mean, what if it pours in Philadelphia? It doesn't pour in New York. Maybe Texas and California was a bad example because they're not in the same areas or in the same division battling. So once again, I guess New York, well, no, New York works with the Mets. I was thinking Yankees. I'm all over the place right now. Say it's pouring in Philadelphia, not pouring in New York. The Phillies can't get 4 games in. The Mets get 4 games in. And now you got 2 teams with 2 different amount of games. What happens then? Does it go by some sort of win percentage? That's where it can get a little tricky. And I'm sure that they have discussed that. I would think at least that there's some sort of description on what happens in that scenario. But it will be interesting because you can't find ways to squeak in all these games late. It just won't work. There's not enough time. And you got to finish at a certain spot. Getting back to this team, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, what are they going to be like? What's the pitching going to be like? Are people worried about their arms? Is that a big-time concern? Are you going to see pitchers go into the 6th, 7th, 8th inning? Or are they going to be worked back in slowly? Maybe you see 5-inning games, 6-inning games early on, even if their pitch count is low. The problem with that is every game matters. You got to win. You got to find ways to win ball games. You are getting thrown into the deep stretch of baseball. Do you have time to work in your pitchers? And that goes back to how committed are teams. Some might say, yeah, let's go. The Yankees might say, we just got Garrett Cole. Do you think I'm going to take a year off? Hell no. Here's a chance to win. The Dodgers just got Mookie Betts. They could lose him at the end of the season. How committed are teams? Speaking of pitching, though, how important is Jake Arrieta? Because if you know what you're going to get out of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, which I don't know what to expect from anyone at this point because with the time off, it's so crazy, and COVID-19, I mean, it's all over the place. But generally, you understand what Zach Wheeler is. You understand what Aaron Nola is. Do we know what Jake Arrieta is at this point? He could be the difference maker. And with a shorter season, is it possible that he's able to actually make some noise? I'm not going to get sucked into that until I see it. I always date back to what happened at the end of the actual spring training that just went over everybody's head because there's way bigger issues going on in the world. And at that time, the coronavirus outbreak was absurd. But he had an injury. He had an issue. He had to leave the spring training game. He's been bad here. Definitely not his best spot of his career. And it does concern me that he's not going to be able to be that X factor. But does the 60-game season, does that change things? It's no longer a marathon, and that changes a lot. Zach Wheeler was a good second-half pitcher. What do we get out of Zach Wheeler now? Do we get the second half Zach Wheeler, or do we get the beginning? Does it take him a while to kind of work in and get into his groove? If so, you might not see the good Zach Wheeler. You might not. The good thing about the Phillies, though, overall, they've been bad at the end of the year. They've been all right to start seasons over the last couple years. It hasn't been abysmal. It hasn't been their August. Their August has been flat out unwatchable. I could barely tune in at times. Oh, they're losing to the Marlins again? Yeah, that's good. All right. You don't get that now. It's all about the jump right out of the gate. Boom. The jump right through the gates. Is Bryce Harper going to be able to deliver early dingers, hitting bombs? I'm really stoked thinking about just baseball being back on the diamond. There's a lot that I was kind of going through when I was thinking about this team. There's so many storylines, and I think we are going to pretty soon here get through the Philly storylines. I saw a great piece on ESPN.com. It's 60 baseball storylines entering the season. There is no doubt I want to dive through some of those conversations for a future podcast, but there's also so many great storylines with the Phillies alone. Joe Girardi, a new manager. Didi Gregorius, a pickup that we were stoked about that nobody really discusses. JT Realmuto's contract. That is very interesting, and I'm going to be disgusted. That must be the word of the day because I was disgusted with baseball for so long, and I just feel like I've used disgusted a lot. But I would be disgusted if they don't find a way to figure out a way to keep JT Realmuto. Is Rhys Hoskins going to be able to actually hit a baseball? Gene Segura lost 14 pounds because he stopped drinking whiskey. Will he be able to play the hot corner? I mentioned Jake Arrieta. Is Roman Quinn going to be your center fielder? Is it going to be Adam Hazley? What's Bryce Harper going to be? Is Scott Kingery going to be all right at second base every single day now? Is he going to be comfortable because he has an actual spot to play? Is it fair to question Andrew McCutchen at age 33 coming off the big-time injury? Think about what I just said. The bullpen. What the hell is the bullpen? The back of the rotation. Vince Velasquez, Nick Pivetta. There is so much, really. There's so much. And the fact that, through the last couple months, it's, okay, is hockey going to come back? Okay, hockey has this plan. Is basketball going to come back? Okay, the NBA has this plan. Is baseball going to come back? No, they're fighting back and forth. Are we ever going to see it? Oh, they finally made a deal. It's going to get to the point pretty soon now where we talk about the game. We talk about the sport. We talk about the storylines that I just mentioned. Not so much, okay, this is their style. This is what the league's going to do. They're going to have 60 games. They're going to have this DH. I think it's important to talk about, no doubt about it. I'm not saying these topics aren't important to talk about. That's what sports has been over the last couple months. It's been those type of conversations. Now, though, because it's set in stone, they're moving forward. They came to, I guess they didn't really come to an agreement, but after Manfred stepped in, they found an even playing field, I guess, at this point to kind of move forward with the safety protocols and starting spring training back up on July 1st. Now it's about actual play moving forward, and I've been waiting for that for such a long time. So keep in mind all those Phillies topics I just mentioned, as well as the overall baseball topics on that ESPN piece. We're going to have some fun over the next couple days talking baseball. I'm just picturing the gray uniform, which is just clean and classic, with the Phillies logo on it. I'm picturing Bryce Harper's flow. I'm picturing baseball. hot days. It's been so beautiful outside over the last couple weekends and even throughout the week. And I picture, wow, I wish there was a 7 o'clock game. I do that on a Saturday. Oh, 4 o'clock. Oh, Sunday, 1 o'clock. I need baseball. And I'm starting to picture it in my head. Now I'm going to go through some condensed games on YouTube over the next few mornings with my coffee, getting excited, getting hyped up, anticipating baseball. And please tell me I'm not going to be heartbroken based off of something happening at this point, because with these two parties, you flat out never know. And that's scary. So, thank you guys so much for listening. Do not forget, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. In addition, they will make sure you receive all the state and federal incentives available for switching to solar. There is no risk and no need for investment. Make sure you check out their website in the description. Their phone number is there as well. Once again, thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time.